έγραψα στο Facebook προηγουμένως ότι αν αυτή την εκπομπή την είχα κάνει μας αφήνανε να μιλήσουμε και την είχα κάνει στο YouTube, έπρεπε να είχε δηλαδή ζωντανά 5.000 κόσμο μέσα και σε 24 ώρες 30.000. Θα δείτε λοιπόν τι συμβαίνει. Ο Τσάρλι Γουόρντ μπήκε στο αεροπλάνο για να πάει Μεξικό. Το είχε προγραμματίσει το προορισμό του να πάει στο Μεξικό. Πριν πάει όμως, μιλήσανε με τον Σάιμον Πάρξ τηλεφωνικά, γιατί κάθε πρωί μιλάνε. Κάνουν και διάφορα καλαμπουράκια, ξέρω εγώ, με το τηλέφωνο. Μιλήσανε λοιπόν τηλεφωνικά και ανταλλάξανε μια πληροφορία την οποία ο καθένας, ήταν στρατιωτική πληροφορία, την οποία ο καθένας την είχε πάρει από διαφορετική πηγή. Και η πληροφορία ήταν 99% ίδια. Οπότε το δέσανε ότι αυτό είναι έτσι, είναι σίγουρο. Πλην όμως αυτή η πληροφορία τους είπανε δεν την λέτε γιατί είναι σε θέση η ανακοίνωσή της να χαλάσει όλη την έκβαση της εξέλιξης. Δεν είναι όπως άλλες που μας τις δίνανε επίτηδες για να ακούσουν οι άλλοι. Αυτή η πληροφορία μπορεί να την υποπτεύονται, αλλά άμα την ακούσουν διαστόματος Charlie Ward ή Simon Parks θα το δέσουν οι άλλοι και θα αλλάξουν γραμμή πλεύσης. Οπότε δεν ανακοινώσανε κάτι γι' αυτό, πλην όμως υπάρχει ένα βίντεο όταν κάνανε το Insiders Club, επειδή ο Charlie Ward είχε φύγει, ζήτησε να τον αναπληρώσει ο Simon Parks και για καλή μας τύχη ο Simon Parks, επειδή όπως και λέει, ενώ ο Charlie Ward έχει 2 NDAs αυστηρά, αυτός ο Simon Parks έχει ένα και δεν είναι και τόσο αυστηρό, αλλά δεν είναι τόσο αυστηρό, μπορεί να λέει πραγματάκια. Και θα δείτε ότι όντως λέει πραγματάρες σήμερα ο Simon Parks. Αυτό το βίντεο λοιπόν, το περίφημο βίντεο, είναι 58 λεπτά, είναι από τις 3 Δεκεμβρίου. Δεν είναι τόσο παλιό, είναι 4 ημερών, είναι φρεσκότατο. Για μένα, όπως δουλεύω εγώ και μεταφράζω και τα λοιπά, είναι φρεσκότατο το 4 ημερών, το έχω έτοιμο από χθες. Αλλά εκπομπή έπρεπε να γίνει σήμερα. Είναι ένα βίντεο λοιπόν 58 λεπτών με καλή υποτίτληση, με καλούς υπότιτλους, αλλά για να μπορέσω να το χειριστώ, εγώ το έκανα 2 κομμάτια, έτσι, part 1 και part 2, μέρος πρώτο, μέρος δεύτερο. Το μέρος πρώτο έρχεται λίγο πιο soft. Λέει, είναι φορτωμένο, έχει πράγματα μέσα. Το δεύτερο, το νούμερο 2 όμως, το part 2, είναι το hardcore, το σκληροπυρηνικό, που εκεί θα ακούσετε μεγάλη μπόμπα. Μεγάλη οικονομική μπόμπα. Εντάξει. Λοιπόν, για να προκάνω τώρα εγώ την αγωνία σας, θα το πω με ερώτηση. Ξέρετε ότι η μεγαλύτερη γιορτή στην Αμερική δεν είναι ούτε τα Χριστούγεννα, το Πάσχα, είναι το Thanksgiving. Η γαλοπούλα στο τραπέζι κτλ. Και είναι οικογενειακή, δεν λείπει κανένας. Εκείνη την ημέρα λοιπόν που δεν λείπει κανένας από την οικογένεια και τα αεροπλάνα σχεδόν δεν πετάνε, δηλαδή κανείς δεν μετακινείται, οι μετακινήσεις έχουν γίνει, έχουν πάει συγγενείς δηλαδή και έχουν συνευρεθεί. Ο Ντόναλντ Τραμπ, που ξέρετε πόσο μεγάλος οικογενειάρχης είναι και πόσο τα προσέχει αυτά τα πράγματα και δεν θέλει να λείψει, έλειψε εκείνη την ημέρα από το σπίτι του. Ο Ντόναλντ Τραμπ πήρε το αεροπλάνο και κάπου πήγε την ημέρα του Thanksgiving, την ημέρα που δεν υποπτευόταν κανένας ότι θα μπορούσε να κάνει μια τέτοια κίνηση. Λοιπόν, όπως ξέρετε που πήγε ο Ντόναλντ Τραμπ την ημέρα του Thanksgiving, των ευχαριστειών που λένε δηλαδή οι Αμερικανοί. Λοιπόν, αυτός και ο επικεφαλής, σας λέω και θα το ακούσατε διαστόματος Simon Parks, αυτός και ο επικεφαλής του QFS πήγαν στο δούνου του. Ναι, στο Διεθνές Νομισματικό Ταμείο, που αυτό δεν είχε αρχεία, γιατί δεν είναι στην Αμερική, είναι από εδώ μεριά. Στην Ελβετία είναι, πού είναι εσύ, δεν θυμάμαι. Λοιπόν, και εκεί η μεγάλη μπόμπα είναι ότι υπογράφτηκε το καινούριο νόμισμα, χαρτονόμισμα των Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών, ότι θα έχει υποστήριξη περιουσιακή, έτσι, χρυσού προφανώς. Μπήκε σε ισχύ το χαρτονόμισμα στο δούνου του και όπως λέει ο Σάιμον Πάρξ χαρακτηριστικά, από αυτή τη στιγμή που μιλάμε μπορεί να συναλλάσσεται αυτό το νόμισμα σε Αμερική και Καναδά. Σε Αμερική και Καναδά. Η μεγάλη... Κάποιος με καλεί τώρα, εγώ δεν είμαι για τέτοια όμως, εν πάση περιπτώσει, η μεγάλη λοιπόν έκπληξη κοντά σε αυτό που λέει ο Σάιμον Πάρξ είναι ότι όλοι όσοι έχουν κρατάνε δολάρια είναι υποχρεωμένοι τώρα να πάνε να τα αλλάξουν και θα έχουν 2 ωρία, προσέξτε, 2 ωρία να αλλάξουν τα δολάρια τους και να πάρουν το νέο νόμισμα μέχρι τέλος Ιανουαρίου. Τέλος Ιανουαρίου θα αλλάχτούν όλα τα νομίσματα παγκοσμίως, και τα ευρωπαϊκά και τα αμερικάνικα και τα ασιατικά και τα αφρικανικά, όλα. Τέλος Ιανουαρίου λοιπόν υπάρχει το νέο κβαντικό νόμισμα, παντού νομίσματα, ότι θα είναι, που είναι υποστηριζόμενο από χρυσό ή οτιδήποτε άλλο περιουσιακό στοιχείο. Αυτές είναι οι τεράστιες εκπλήξεις και τα πράγματα, όπως βλέπετε, αρχίζουν και επιταχύνονται μετά από αυτή την είδηση έκπληξη που θα την ακούσατε διαστόματος Σάιμον Πάρξ. Λοιπόν, εγώ ξεκινάω τώρα. Θα ξεκινήσω με το πρώτο, δηλαδή θα τα βάλω συνεχόμενα, έτσι, μονοκόμματα, για να τα κουβεντιάσουμε όλα μαζί στο τέλος. Ένα είναι το βίντεο, αλλά το έχω κάνει εγώ 2 κομμάτια, γιατί στο μεταφραστήρι που έχω είναι δύσκολο να το χειριστώ ολόκληρο μιας ώρας, ενώ τη μισή ώρα την παίζει εύκολα. Λοιπόν, ξεκινάμε. Είναι ο David Mahoney, από την άλλη μεριά έχει τον Simon Parks αντί του Charlie Wharton. Βγάζουν και σε ένα βιντεάκι από το αεροδρόμιο που είναι στην Αμερική για να πάει Μεξικό, έτσι. Λέει κάτι αυτά δικά του. Μπράβο, πολύ ενδιαφέροντα και αυτά που λέει για τα μυστικά που δεν πρέπει να πούνε. Και μετά θα περάσω στο δεύτερο μέρος συνεχόμενα. Το δεύτερο μέρος είναι που έχει τη μεγάλη μπόμπα και άλλες μπομπίτσες. Λοιπόν, ξεκινάμε.
Oh, no, not dead.
Well, Charlie's on his way to Mexico. He texted me from the airport. He sent me a video to play to everybody, but we'll let the numbers build a little bit first, yeah?
Fine, yeah. Well, what I thought I'd do today is I just do a Q&A.
Absolutely.
A little bit of update and then do a Q&A and then just play with that.
Simon.
Yeah.
Charlie pre-warned me.
Oh, no. What now?
You've had some sort of chat with somebody. He's kind of asked you to not say too much this week. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wait till we get into that then.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do today, Mahoney, if that's all right with you, is that I'll just do a very short update and then just question and answers, quick fire. You choose whichever ones you want, throw them at me, and as soon as I've answered it, get straight on to the next one.
Sure, mate. Yeah.
All right. So, as you said earlier, what had happened is I'd been talking to a major general who from America who'd been chatting to me and gave me some information. And then this morning, very early, as always, Charlie and I always like first on with each other. And I said, look, this is what I've heard. Have you heard this? So he said 99% the same as what you've got. So we both agreed then if we were receiving this information from different sources, it had to be real. Now, what Charlie's actually asked me to do for your insiders, Mahoney, is first of all to say, send his love to everybody. So, all right, tick the box, I've done that one. And the next thing he wanted me to do was to say that he hopes that he will have some really exciting news for the insiders. Now, I know that if what Charlie and I discovered last night, this morning is true, he really will have some exciting news for the insiders. But I can't go anymore because Charlie's asked me not to. Just for clarity, Charlie has 2 NDAs. I have 1 NDA. And my NDA allows me to talk about some of the military stuff. Charlie's NDA does not allow him to talk about the military stuff. But in this instance, although what Charlie and I talked about was both military and financial, it is so sensitive and could, you know, if it got out at this stage, it could cause an issue. So that's why Charlie's asked me to be quiet. So on that, I'm happy just to go straight into the questions as they come up.
All right, Simon, explain what Dubai 2 is again.
Right, we had a bet on here. And Becky said to me, the first questions you're going to be asked is, what is Dubai 1 and Dubai 2? Because we look at all the threads. Right, okay. When the RV was initially conceived a long time ago, it was built on in terms of adding on, and as funds became available, certain crown princes who have what we call a sovereign wealth fund. And there are a number of countries with a sovereign wealth fund, and people might not realize that Norway has a sovereign wealth fund. But Saudi Arabia has a sovereign wealth fund, and some of the crown princes were very eager to assist in the RV. And so Dubai 1 and Dubai 2 are codes for two types of funding. Dubai 1 was a set of funds that did a lot of things outside of the public domain. For instance, literally funded the Chinese elders. And Dubai 2 is the funds that would allow the platforms like My Connecting Consciousness, Your Insiders, Chaz's PPN network to go live, to sort out those projects. So Dubai 1 is much more of a humanitarian fund, and also from that will start to put liquidity into the Oneness Fund. So Dubai 1 and Dubai 2 are remarkably different, and Dubai 1 has to go first and then 2 goes afterwards. Okay, that's that one.
That's pretty good. Can you, where was good? That's gone from. Do you know about the SCOTUS scheduling the discussion on the Branson case on January 6th? What will happen on the 6th? It will be a discussion to see whether they want to put it forward. Now, unfortunately, a lot of patriots saw that as a negative move. It's not, it's just part of the game of chess taking place. And I'll just take a minute to explain that. First of all, on the 6th of January, we assume that the mainstream media still use the term the Capitol Hill riot. So it's a dig at mainstream that SCOTUS is going to, on the anniversary of the first January the 6th, have a debate about that. The point here is that, first of all, if the court becomes involved, it begins to tie the hands of the military. If the court debates it on January the 6th and then says, look, we're going to, properly have a court case on this at the end of January, it constrains the military into a corridor they don't want. As it stands at the moment, the military don't require SCOTUS involved at all. The executive orders that Trump wrote over the last few years remove the SCOTUS because military law takes precedent over civilian law. So this is more to do with having a go at the deep state. It also frightened the deep state when people started talking about the court case. So it's a bit of a red herring. It's not needed. But if you want to wake up a lot of unawake people, a court case is something that they respect. It's the mainstream, it's the matrix. They take notice of it. So it's less confrontational than a military takeover. Having a court case that starts to push Biden out of office is much more acceptable. So that's probably their backstop. Okay. Why the White Hat's not dripping more intel on mainstream media to wake more people up?
I genuinely can't answer that one as you'd like, because both Charlie and I privately wouldn't be doing it this way. I know it's difficult for us because we don't want to be seen to be being too negative, but it's not the way we would do it. The influence on intel has really shifted towards Twitter. I think what's going to happen is that the awake and aware on Twitter, because all of the normals or normies have left Twitter apparently because they think it's an unsafe place to be. But at the moment they're concentrating on Twitter, the laptop of Biden's, Hunter Biden, etc., etc. In terms of mainstream, which is what we all want to see, I think that will happen in January. I think there's going to be stuff over December, but the all-encompassing release of true information, I think so. But I can't fully answer the question as to why aren't they pouring this out over the place, because obviously they don't want to. Why is Putin taking so long in Russia? Why? Because they all want it to go together. The Brazilian military could have walked in yesterday, but they didn't, simply because I think they all want to do it within a 4-hour window. So when the green light goes, whatever that green light is, within 4 hours, all of these key actions must have taken place. They've got a 4-hour period to enact it. So they're all treading water, waiting for that green light. Okay.
They've moved up Bolsonaro, Lula's inauguration by a few days as well, because he's getting He's getting twitchy now, Lula. I saw that. Simon, I'm going to play Charlie's video. It's only about a minute long, because if we don't play it at the start, it'll run out of validity.
Yeah, all right. Well, then.
So here we go. I'll put this up, and you can get this message from Charlie, because he was concerned.
There he is.
There he is.
Hi guys, just to let you know, I'm in the airport right now, heading off to Mexico.
Oh, what's happened?
Sorry, mate. I said turn up the volume, everybody, because the video, it was taken at the airport. The volume's not great. So I'll give everybody a chance to do that, and here you go.
Hi guys, just to let you know, I'm in the airport right now, heading off to Mexico. Had to meet with John Baxter and the team, and many other influencers were out there. We're looking forward to a break. I'm taking my wife and Justin with me. And there's a lot of things going on right now behind the scenes that nobody can talk about. Both Simon and I have been asked to keep quiet about certain things, but I can assure you they are very, very positive. Things are happening, things are moving, things are very positive. This is an exciting time to be alive. Keep calm, keep restful, just know that everything is under control. And I shall look forward to catching up with you from Mexico on Wednesday. See you soon.
Oh, that was nice.
I had to force it out of him.
Oh, bless you. No, that's
He rang
great.
me.
That's great.
He
Yeah, I
rang me
think
early this morning.
what he's reiterating there is that what he and I were told was so of a dynamite nature that if I were to release it now, it would influence things. And if it put things back because of our information release, then we would be in trouble. So that's why.
I got you. Well, there's definitely a feel of difference in the air. There's something brewing, okay? And again, a waiting game. It's interesting what you said about the 4-hour window, Simon, because I wasn't aware of that. So when they do pull the trigger and the green light goes and the sirens go off, they've got to implement all of these different moves in all these different countries to take down all of the bad guys. It's a very, very interesting plan. Never been tried with anything like this in world history before. If you think about the coordination needed in all these major countries, you can take everything in Europe, you can take the UK, USA, Brazil, and then you've got, I mean, there must be over 150 countries. It all has to happen at the same time. It's strategically important. Let's talk about these large American fleet ships that are anchored or hovering off the coast of several different countries. First of all, which countries are they there? We know we got one off the coast of the UK, and there's apparently one off the coast of of Australia as well, Simon. What do you know about those?
I think there's possibility that there are a number of ships in Australia. Some have set sail. When the numbers of people to be processed has dried up, then the craft will literally go off to another location and anchor and carry on. Everybody knows that certain cities around the globe are not part of the countries they're based in, and that's allowed the deep state to undertake financial deals without being responsible for or to the government it's placed in. And so maritime law allows particularly British and American vessels to have a trial at sea. That's where it all comes from originally. And it's a recognized court. Maritime law is a recognized court. It's the main court. And that's what's happening. So these aircraft carriers have been stripped out on the inside, and the engineers have partitioned into a number of compartments, for want of a better word. And there are courts, the proper term is courts martials taking place. And it's excellent because you can bring people in by helicopter. Nobody's going to see who's coming in, and they're processed and dealt with. And so that's how it works. And it's a great way to, first of all, project your power, because the aircraft, the F-16s and the F-18s, which are on the top of the aircraft carrier, they're armed, fully ready. But underneath, whereas normally what would happen is that, the hydraulic ramps would bring up one aircraft after another or reload of missiles. Literally, there's nothing there. It's just literally courts and officers from the Marine Corps being judges, etc. So, yeah, I would give too much chances for people who end up being heli lifted onto one of those.
Yeah, I certainly don't fancy a weekend excursion. YouTube XRP guys are saying that the central bank digital currencies will run on XRP. Any thoughts on this, Simon?
They've got to run on a platform that is terrestrial, because they don't now have control of any of the satellites. You know, here in Britain, even the BBC was carrying the fact that Elon Musk's Starlink was now operating in 3 parts of Britain. So if you're going to run a digital currency with AI, it can't have anything that is connected to, you know, what I call the white hats operation. So let's remember, the audience perhaps needs to remember that this central bank digital currency is being allowed to play out, because so many people are living in a just a bubble. And, you know, if they are told, well, look, you know, we want you to move to this. I mean, some people are even saying to me that only if you're vaccinated can you have access to it, which is great, because I'm not vaccinated, and I hope most of the audience are not. And so we won't be offered that, you know, we won't be invited into that. And of course, all these people who are like sheep will run at it because they'll see it as a great thing. And then they'll be told, well, you can only spend equivalent of 100, whether that's pounds or euros, doesn't matter, a day. So this is all part of what Charlie would say to wake people up. It's this process. Look, the white hats aren't just military people, Mahoney. The white hats have teams of psychologists. They've had the most advanced computers, and they have modeled human reaction. So they put in a situation into the computer, and they say, how will humanity react to that? What will happen? And they go monitor Twitter, they monitor all of the other platforms, and they see in real time how people are talking and reacting to something they've put out. They build a picture. And so they've worked out that, in their opinion, this is the best way to lead the unawake and unaware very quickly to enlightenment without President Trump coming in on a tank, because that ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the Iraqi dinar? Apparently they're revaluing it this week. Do you know anything about that? I'm just going to step away and get some water, Simon. I've drunk that.
That's fine. Go on. You go and do that. Well, these things can only happen on a Wednesday or a Saturday, because these are what we call mosque days. Because it's a very strong religious country, it must be passed by the imams in the mosque, and then it goes through to be passed through to law. Or sometimes the law will be passed and then given to the imams, who then ratify it by reading it out in the mosques, either on Wednesday or Saturday. Your direct question relates to today. It is hoped that the revaluation of the dinar will be announced in the mosques today. Now, this is a big deal because 2 countries play a huge role in the RV. One's Zimbabwe and one's Iraq, because they've both been pillaged and destroyed almost, you know, without exception above any other country. There are 2 rates. There's the in-house rate, and then there's the external rate. If you are in-house, then the rate will be somewhat different from external. And so you imagine somebody with 10 million dinar in the country who could then transfer that and get $10 million. So they become millionaires overnight. But somebody who's sitting, you know, in another country with 10 million dinar, good guys might not want that person to get 10 million. You might get considerably less. So there will be an in-house rate and an external rate. We'll have to wait and see. Iraq being the country it is, it probably won't be till tomorrow or Monday that we actually get confirmation that they revalued their currency.
Good answer, Simon. Was Ron DeSantis taken out and replaced by a white hat?
You see, the thing is that there have been a number of people in the Trump presidency who appeared to play a role as a black hat, but then it later emerged that they were actually a good guy leading on certain things. And so it is height of folly to imagine that if there's a public argument between Trump and somebody else, that is actually to be taken at face value. Ultimately, politicians want to advance themselves. And when I was a politician, I'm sure I wanted to advance myself as well. And there must have been a lot of people going to Ron DeSantis saying, look, you could run for president. You could run for president. Because remember this, Mahoney, that a lot of people throw their hat into the ring, knowing that they won't win, but they're in a much better position afterwards. So if you are considered as a presidential candidate, but you don't get it, and you're not the candidate at the end, basically you're in a stronger position for the rest of your political life. So it might be that some of these people have been urged to stick on. No, I'm very cautious about cloning. It's much easier to do a body double. It's much harder to do a cloning. You have to be very high value to be cloned. I don't think Ron DeSantis is a bad guy. I think Ron DeSantis is playing a game very much like Elon Musk, very much like some of the other characters who are playing off one half of people that support them from the other side. Because if Ron DeSantis was a bad guy, he would have been dealt with much earlier than this. He wouldn't have been allowed to go through the midterms. He did remarkably well. Of all the politicians standing for governorship, he had one of the highest approval ratings. And, that's important.
Any updates about the medbed, Simon?
They're the same. It's a very boring update because nothing changes. It is totally related to the green light. Now, you listened, as we all did, to what Charlie said. You heard what I said, and when you and I spoke earlier, you were saying that Charlie was quite keen that we didn't say anything. The medbeds release the moment the Oneness Fund is activated. Now, there's a huge difference between dinar, bolivar, dong, German bonds, lion bonds, all of the other bonds, and ZIM. The ZIM always has been identified as a humanitarian fund. So all the German bonds in the world could activate, but that wouldn't activate the Oneness Fund, because that is a humanitarian fund. And remember that there are a couple of people not 2 million miles away from you, Mahoney, who have some responsibility and influence when that works out. And so it is when the humanitarian aspect of the RV launches, that is when things like the medbeds become available, like the Q phones or the T phones, or hydrogen for motor cars, Tesla electricity. All of these things are linked when the military feels that the threat to its new inventions or rediscovered inventions is not threatened by the establishment. The big question is, when are the medbeds? Well, what about the NHS? What's going to happen there? What's going to happen with all those? What about all the millions of people now who are on a waiting list for an NHS operation? 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you go and announce medbeds. It would almost be anarchy. So it has to be handled in a very, very careful way. I have always suggested a two-fold approach to the RV. A smaller, more succinct RV launch, which the general public are not aware of, and then later a full public awareness RV, by which time those who are in the know have built up a structure, have developed what they need to develop. So when the flood doors open, there is a structure ready to deal with that. So, that should be quite helpful for the members hearing that.
Yeah. Here's a good one. We've been seeing supposed energy weapons taking out Russian bases and aircraft carriers by the Ukraine forces. Is this real or part of the show or propaganda?
Right, they do not have, the Ukrainians neither have directed energy weapons nor tungsten cord or heavy metal rods, which are fired through inertia. They don't have those weapons. The Russians have them and the Americans have them. The Chinese are working on them. The Chinese went down the hypersonic missile route. The Chinese actually have the most advanced hypersonic missile in the world. Russia's second, and Russian hypersonic missiles are more advanced than Americans. So what America did was it went down the road ever since Ronald Reagan and his Star Wars of energy weapons. They've had energy weapons since the 1980s. And of course, my mother, God bless her, when she was working for MI5, they had the weapons back then, but they didn't have the software to target them. And also, when you fire an energy weapon inside the Earth's atmosphere, it slightly makes the energy weapon veer off course. You see, in vacuum in a space, when you fire an energy weapon, it can go a million miles and it doesn't deviate at all. But when it hits an atmosphere, it begins to develop. Like if you shine light onto a bath or a load of water, you see the angle, it's different, it refracts or reflects. And so what happened of late was software technology that could think, this is quantum, think at the speed of the energy weapon. The speed of light is 186,000 miles a second. So if you fire an energy weapon at 186,000 miles a second, there wasn't at the time a computer fast enough to calculate that. If you have a target it's moving here and you fire 186,000 miles per second, no computer could lock on and predict where it would be. But with a quantum computer, it now meant that they had the technology, the hardware technology, to match the concept. So the concept comes first, then comes the weapon, then they've got to play catch up with smaller and smaller chips and faster chips to do it. That's where they are now. So the Georgia Guidestones were taken out, not by a tungsten core metal and a weapon, but by an energy beam weapon that was fired either from space, we're not clear on this, or from a flying platform. But the attack of the weapon did not come straight down. It actually came very, very, very low on an angle. So we think it was a platform, an aircraft, because you can have a very big aircraft carry that. So that's my answer to that one.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I saw it looked like an energy weapon. Good one, that. The questions are really good today because they're so varied. You're doing very well, mate.
Let's keep firing them.
I just had a good one. Let's talk about the refugees all around Europe. It says, what about all the refugees in the hotels in Europe? What's the real story?
Twofold here, and it's a dangerous game that's being played.
Yeah.
Part of it is literally to upset local people, indigenous people who can't get a house to live in, and they see these foreigners coming in being looked after. It's to make them very angry. That's a dangerous game. The other point is that the deep state are also in control of some aspects of the infrastructure, and these guys are then being recruited for the Azov battalion or another Rangers battalion for the Ukraine armed forces, paid money and shipped out. That's entirely what it's about. It's literally about, first of all, frightening local people to say, look, you don't matter. These foreigners are coming in, they're getting everything. So that's that aspect. The other aspect is literally it's manpower for Ukraine, because you see they can't do the recruiting inside Ukraine because it is not part of NATO. It's not part of the European Union. So you bring these people to another country and then you do it. Now, Britain isn't part of the European Union, but is part of NATO. Now, also Southern Ireland, it's happening in Southern Ireland. One of the Irish bases been given over, a military base has been given over to them. And they're part of both the Euro and the European Union deep state. So that's what's going on. Combination of that is foreign troops. And there are some very interesting reasons why there are foreign troops in Britain and other countries. But honestly, as Charlie would, make his audience very well aware, the national army won't tolerate any sort of coup by a foreign force. So I don't actually believe that's going to happen. I think this is all part of the saber rattling that's leading up to what's going to come.
Do you know who Sky Prince is, Simon?
No.
I don't either, so we can't ask that question. What's this George Soros? There was a reports of him passing. Is this true? Is there anybody verified that?
I can't verify it, but I got the report about 3 or 4 days ago. There was a small team operation, teams of 3, 6, and 9, and in some cases 12 special forces went out across Europe and America, and they were designed to take out the lower ranks of the elite, so the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, at a lower level. And I did receive a report that Soros was a successful. All I was told was that the parameters for that operation had been successfully concluded, which is military speak for they were successful. So I would imagine that he's no longer where he should be. Let's put it like that.
And Klaus Schwab, he's had 2 heart attacks already.
Yeah, I think that the key people aren't really the issue for us. They're great names to drop, but the real problem, it's a little bit like the QFS. You know, when every time they send out a test tranche payment, it isn't the likes of Soros or Schwab that are trying to steal it. It's the much lower minions electronically hacking in trying to do it. But if you take out the key names, you destroy the confidence within that network. So we learned this during wars, that if the operator who runs a secret cell in a particular country, if that person's taken out, the cell then goes into a special program where all the actors disappear. One go one country, one go another. So you take out the head, then you don't actually liquidate the individuals, but you totally destroy that operation. They just move house. So yeah, some of these big names genuinely have been picked up, no question of it.
Because you just don't see him anymore. If you think about how many